friends, welcome back to my channel. So this is my boyfriend,
Spencer.
So we've been dating for about 3 years now, and we've recently gone and we're doing long distance now. So we're just gonna talk about our relationship long distance, what it's like transitioning from being together to now being long distance. So let's just go ahead and get started.
We met in class at the University of Loyola, New Orleans. Sofia and I got paired into the same group for a forensic chemistry class that we were both in. And there was a crime scene that we had to investigate, and none of us had any idea what we were doing. And so I stepped up and started bossing everyone around, and then I forced her onto a date with me.
No, that's not. I mean, part of it's true, but that's not how it happened.
That's basically what it was.
No, and then we started talking, and then we went out to a party together, and the rest is kind of
And somebody dressed up like a giraffe.
Yeah, I was a giraffe in a party. So.
And then we dressed up as Bob Ross in a happy tree.
That was a long time ago.
Timeline's about right.
So we've been dating since April of 2018.
Yes.
So April 2021 will be 3 years.
We got together on April 20th.
Yeah, we got together on 4/20. So we've been together all of college and together at college. So we've only had to do long distance throughout the summers.
For 2 summers. And only ever about 6 weeks at a time during that period. So one of us would come and visit during those 2 summer periods.
Yeah, so now I'm still in school. I'm still on track. He just graduated early. I'm a senior graduating in May, and he graduated in December. So he's back home living in LA. I'm here in New Orleans. So
we're stumbling through the darkness, and we're blind people, and we're stubbing our toes a lot. But this is the second time that one of us has come out and seen the other since we've initiated long distance. And I don't know if we're in a position to give much advice on it, but we want to give I guess we could try and give advice on it.
I think we're better now. So starting long distance, so we got together in April. School ended in May, so we had only been dating like less than a month. And then we were in a relationship, and then we had to do a summer apart. So I think we're dealing with it better now.
I think that was the hardest period of being long distance that we've done thus far, just because we didn't really know each other all that well at that point. I mean, we had spent a lot of time with each other in the month that we had been together, but it wasn't as though we had a really solid relationship to fall back on when things were getting difficult long distance. Thankfully, she did come out and see me that summer for a pretty long period of time, so it kind of split up the summer. We had
a week.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I only came out for a week.
It was a decent amount of time.
We're definitely more committed to each other.
Well, yeah, 3 years in.
Yeah.
It better be. So for being long distance this time has been a lot different than in the past, is because we've been able to always know when we'd come back to each other when we were leaving each other for school, because it'd either be, oh, I'm seeing you in a few weeks for a visit, or I'm going to be back in the fall for class and I'll be in New Orleans, or she'll be in LA. And now it's like, okay, now we're in the vast open sea with no real end in sight, and that's a little bit daunting. But I think one thing that, let's put this in the review section, this is one thing that we've done that's been really helpful, is that before we leave each other, we've set up the next time that we could possibly see the other person, and that's been helpful, just because it gives you a checkpoint to get to, it gives you something to look forward to. It gives you something to say, oh, well, today's not doing that good, and I can't wait to cuddle you in X amount of weeks, like that's been really helpful, at least for me.
Yeah, we're trying not to go more than a month, maybe a month and a half in between seeing each other. 2 months is a pretty long time and I know people have done longer, 6 months, but with our situation, we're really trying hard to see each other about once every month and a half or so. And thankfully we have parents that are willing to help us see each other. It's still tough.
Well, she hasn't put a ring on my finger yet, so that's well, it's just different, right? You know, like we've been very upfront about this, and I think that the thing that we do well as far as communicating is being really honest with the intentions that we have going into the relationship. Realistically, I would not want to be with somebody long distance that I couldn't see a potential future with. I am not personally ready to get married and settle down yet, and I don't think that you are, and I might be going off on a limb speaking for you there, but I don't think I'm out of key saying that. Regardless, I know that we're both very much committed to long term with each other, and I think that's helpful, at least for me, in keeping things into perspective when things get hard when we're long distance.
Yeah, I think that's something to think about if you are potentially going into a relationship that is going to be long distance, or you are in a long distance relationship. Do you see this going forward where you will no longer be long distance? And if that's the case where you see a future with that person, I think it's very well worth it, but I think that's something you or anybody should think about.
And well worth it is not without its trials and tribulations.
Yeah, everything's not rainbows and butterflies with us.
I mean, there are days when, and we've experienced this in the past, and this time it's a little different just because we don't really have a set plan on when we're officially going to be, living in the same city together. There are days when you just don't really feel connected to the other person. And it's really hard to, especially if you don't have the day-to-day goings on of that person in your life, and you can go weeks with you being busy and the other person being busy, and you just feel kind of disconnected and disjointed, and it really does suck. It's not fun at all, but I think keeping it in mind what the end goal there is, and working really hard to set yourself up in a position so that you guys can be together is really what gets you through it. And thus far right now it's just been really hard, but I think we're trying to make it not be impossible.
We both don't have jobs right now, like full-time professional jobs. I'm working here 2 part-time jobs, and you're doing DoorDash and studying for your CFA, but as of right now we have no idea where we're going. Certainty helps with long-distance relationships. The most certain thing I think we have right now is that we love each other, but we have no idea where we're going or where a potential job could take us. So
yeah, right now we're worrying about a plan that we don't even have yet. It's going to be different when one of us, probably likely me, lands the job first, and then we know at least one city that we narrow it down to, and
or somewhere close.
Yeah. So and we've talked about the possibility of, for even a year or two into our relationship, into our professional lives, where we're just in cities near the West Coast, and might have to do that if that's where the opportunity lies, and that'd be really hard, and we both acknowledge that, and both of us are committed to putting in the effort and the will to do that, just because we know what it's coming back to, and that's important to know. And we've both discussed that we're not soothsayers, and it could be too overwhelming for us, but right now neither of us are prepared to let the other go, and that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day.
That's kind of our driving force, and we've kind of come to terms that we don't know, and that is the certainty, is that both of us don't know, and that we will just have to figure it out on our own. And of course we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but as of right now our plan is to include each other.
Well, we were talking about this the other day, actually, when you were saying, we don't appreciate each other when we're with each other, and we can, but that's only natural, right? Is that when you're living day to day with somebody, you can take that person for granted because you know that at the end of the day you're gonna fall back on, yeah, we get to cuddle. I don't think that we do take advantage or what, don't appreciate it when we're together, because I think that we show each other the amount of love that any person living long term with somebody else would be doing that. So when we were living together in Louisiana, we spent a lot of the time arguing and a lot of the time loving each other, and that's just how it is living with somebody. And now we gotta, pick our battles if we only get to see each other a little bit of each other at a time. But it's not as though I don't appreciate those moments when we're staying together long term.
No, and I'm definitely more like, I like you a lot. But.
And I don't ever say that.
I think having that constant there, you always know you're gonna come back to them. But when they're gonna go, there's always this fleeting feeling that
I'm going tomorrow morning, so this is a little topical right now.
There's always like a fleeting feeling that the time is like gonna come to an end. And of course there's gonna be the time again where we're gonna see each other, but it's still not a constant. That's the tough part.
Yeah, I mean, on a day-to-day basis, that's when you really just, distance makes the heart grow fonder, and that's when you learn that on the day-to-day basis, on a hard day when you can't go and snuggle somebody at night. And I tell myself this, but sometimes it's hard for me to believe, is 6 months is a drop in the bucket when you got a lifetime to spend with somebody. But
then for me, it's like I feel like the world's gonna end half of the time anyway, so.
Oh yeah, I mean, that sounds like a you thing though.
Yeah, it's 6 months feels like forever. Obviously, from an aerial view, it is very small, but right now it feels like I need to just get through the weeks until I can see you, and then time goes by. That's how it feels. Initially,
when you come back to see the other person, at least this time, and it hasn't done this every time, and it used to a little bit more often and a little bit differently, but it takes like a good, 2-3 hours to like get into a groove with somebody again. We went to a Mediterranean joint right after I landed at the airport, and I was like, how do I talk to you?
Yeah, it gets a little awkward. It's not like you don't know the person, but it feels, you just don't feel as connected and in the rhythm of things as you do normally. But then now, I mean, we're fine. It took about a day to get adjusted again, and then now we're good.
That's right. Never.
Long distance.
Bury them, and eventually they just go away.
No. So it's easy to resolve arguments, or easier to resolve arguments in person, obviously.
Certainly so.
Sometimes each of us have taken at least for me, I don't know about you, have taken a break from calling each other, and we just need a second to think about what we're gonna say, just because text doesn't come across the best. FaceTime, you can't see the person's demeanor or their body language, and you're not in the same room to conclude the argument and give that person a hug. What?
No. Yeah, giving a hug is something that's an easy crutch to fall back on in an argument, and I feel like we do sometimes, just because, I mean, hell, for an argument, I'm not gonna not give you a hug at the end. I think the hardest bit though is having that communication barrier, and just knowing that it would be different if we were in person, that the conversation wouldn't be going the way that it is. And you want to be as honest as possible, but sometimes, I mean, just spending like an hour and a half on FaceTime is just draining, and it really is, and that sucks.
I mean, we get into an argument here, or discussion there every so often, but we really try and not go to bed upset with each other over FaceTime. and we both try to apologize if pretty much about anything.
Yeah, checking the ego is difficult, at least for me, in certain instances, because you just don't have the cadence of the other person down when you're having a conversation with them, and you can just misinterpret things, and it's difficult to put yourself aside and say, I'm not arguing, I'm discussing with somebody, and this isn't the opportune medium for that to happen in, and I gotta take everything with a grain of salt, and that's hard for me.
I think most of our arguments, both in person and via phone, long distance, are just miscommunication. It's just not understanding what's going on, and you're also not in the place with them, so you don't know exactly what they're doing day to day, how they're doing it, what's going on behind the scenes. It's similar to watching a YouTube video. You only really see what that person shows you or what that person tells you, and we try to tell each other everything, but I don't see exactly what he does, and so I get upset about certain things, and then same with him, and it's just a lot of miscommunication, and it's funny because we're communicating all the time.
We try to communicate well, but it's a difficult thing to do. One thing that is difficult for me, at least, is that sometimes I don't want help with my problem. I just want to hug, and I get that messed up sometimes. I live with my mom. I live with 2 dogs that are always entertaining me. We have friends out in Los Angeles, so I can keep myself busy, and then I work really hard all the time. Mm-hmm. And keeping yourself busy is really nice, and if I could sit around all day and just say, wow, look at this big empty house, I would probably think differently, but honestly, it's probably not as hard for me as it is for her, who does just sit in her studio apartment without somebody to talk to a lot of the time. And that's definitely got to be more challenging for her than it is for me, just because puppies, I got my mom to hang out with. She's pretty cool. So.
My mom lives with me.
I live with my mom. That's not something I'm ashamed of or proud of, but one day and possibly soon won't be the case, and I love spending time with my mom. So there you go.
Yeah, that's something I'm struggling with now, is living by myself. I live in a studio apartment by myself. If you want to see the apartment tour, it'll be linked down below or up there, wherever it is.
It's in this corner right here.
Thanks.
Now you go fill it.
So it's not a very big space, so it doesn't feel huge, but it gets lonely at times, and of course I call people when I'm sad or when I'm feeling alone, but I'm getting better at being by myself sometimes.
I would say so.
But I do wish I had a companion, like a doggy or something, but it's not in the cards right now. But it is.
She'll get a dog.
But I am struggling more so than I thought I would be with being by myself, because this is the first time I've ever lived by myself, but then he was always right down the street, so he'd be here all the time, so I really wasn't living by myself all the time, and now I really am, and it's really difficult. Overall, I would say it's not the end of the world, even though it feels like it. Long distance is doable. It is manageable. It's something that I think a lot of people can do, but I think it's something you really need to think about and consider. Is this something you do want to do? Because it isn't easy.
Long distance, at least in my experience, has been incredibly challenging. It's been not fun in a lot of regards. It's a lot of spending time and making time for another person on the phone in a area where you don't know the context of their day or couldn't have contributed to yourself, and you can't necessarily know where the headspace of the other person is, and a lot of times it's just missing the other person, and right now it's helpful to keep things in perspective, but it doesn't get any easier. Right now it's just me and you waiting for the next time to see each other, and then making plans for when that can be more long term, and that's really what it is at this point. And it's a sacrifice. It's really what it is. It's a sacrifice of your time, your emotional energy, your physical connection with somebody else. And if that relationship is worthwhile to you, I'd say go for it. I mean, we've had this conversation many times. I can't stand the thought of losing you, and I wouldn't do that even if I could foresee the most terrible future in the world, where I living in Australia and you're living on the other side of the world, and we get to speak for an hour in the morning and night every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're pretty used to that, huh?
But that's something, the end goal for us is we are going to be together. I don't think I would do long distance if I wasn't committed to you, and I think the same for you.
And having 3 years of, almost 3 years of having a really good relationship, a beautiful relationship, is something that we can kind of fall back on. And if you haven't really been together with somebody for a really long time, it's kind of hard to understand how the other person lives and works when you haven't really had the experience of getting to know that person for a very long time. And 3 years isn't a long time, but you know, living in close quarters for 3 years is definitely a decent amount of time to get to know somebody. We talked a lot about this before we left each other, of like, hey, is this worth it to us? And we spent a lot of time and energy into determining if that was or not, and we both came to the same conclusion. So that's another thing, is just got to be honest with yourselves.
Yeah, just got to be on the same page pretty much all the time. Most of the time. Obviously you're gonna have your riffs, but being on the same page about what you want to do, where you want to be with the other person is key. Just being on that same page. So if you're thinking about it, hopefully this helps. This is from our perspective, and of course we've only been doing this for about since Thanksgiving, a little after Thanksgiving.
Since November, and now it's February.
So a little.
And since then we've seen
3
each other
months.
twice.
Yeah.
So we're not exactly, lacking comfort.
No, and
but planning things and like having things to look forward to has really been helpful for that.
And we're trying not to make this a forever thing. We're trying to shorten it as soon as possible. So, yeah.
All right, was that a good video? Signing off. 3 out of 10 stars. Would only recommend to the, true lovebirds out there. Not us. Don't flatter yourself.
Okay. Well, that's it from us. Thank you for watching. If you have any other questions, just leave them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer anything. And if you got anything from this video, just definitely give it a thumbs up. And
if you didn't get anything from this video, also give it a thumbs up.
Sure, you can do that as well. And I think that's it. So I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Peace.